What's going on, yo? Welcome back to Last Week in the NBA, the series where I catch you up on everything that's going on around the association. Let's jump into it. And that brings us back here to the spreadsheets. I always love getting to hop back on the spreadsheets, man. It's a pleasure. Quick side note before we jump into anything. I had some people comment being like, would you do a video like where you kind of take us through a tutorial as to, like, how you build these things? Is that something that y'all would actually be interested in? Let me know. Otherwise, make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment. You guys know I respond to every single comment on my channel, and I intend to keep on doing so for as long as I possibly can. But anyway, last week in the NBA, we have a bunch of things to cover. For those of you that are new, we're going to be going around the association talking about players that were worth highlighting in this last week, kind of our highlights section. We're going to go around the association, see who's leading in all of our different categories, talking about who's really playing well. We've got some news and highlights to cover, a rookie report, a standings updates, all the fun things. So anyway, let's start talking about our weekly standouts. Very, very guard heavy this week. The first player we're highlighting this week is Jalen Green, who was actually the sixth leading scorer this last week, as you can see right here. 32.5 points per game, 3.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds, about half a steal, half a block. Shot at 60, almost 61% from the field and 63% from three. The Houston Rockets continue to be really, really good, even without Jabari Smith out on the court. And look, this is one of these upswings for Jalen Green now, right? I mean, we can take a look at Jalen Green's numbers over here throughout the rest of this season, right? And I mean, overall, like, good counting numbers. 21, 22 points per game, shooting at 36% from three. Not great. The field goal percentage could definitely be better. What do we do with Jalen Green at this point, right? And I'm reaching out to you Rockets fans, because I know there's a decent amount of you that are in the comment section. Like, this guy's incredibly talented, right? There's no doubt about that ever. It's just what we continue to say, right? This is one of those guys that just doesn't quite get basketball, though, and just kind of doesn't always play winning basketball. When the shots are falling and things are looking good, it's looking good. And we saw, like, the back half of last year, we're like, okay, it looks like he's slowing the game down a little bit. It looks like he's starting to make some better decisions, and the shots falling more, maybe because of that. But this year, it's kind of felt like it hasn't quite been there. Again, this has been a decent little stretch for him again, but that's kind of it. Is it going to hit another low stretch where it, like, the decision making kind of falls back off again and everything? It's hard to say, but the Rockets are really, really good. They're really, really fun. Got a lot of young players that are showing out right now, and he's like probably the most talented one out of them all. I don't think that was ever necessarily a question. I mean, maybe you could say Amin Thompson or something like that too, but Green's got like the shooting and everything, you know? So we'd like to see more out of him, but man, this last week he was killing it. Cause I mean, this is through 4 games in 33 minutes. I mean, he's putting up a point a minute right now. That's some insane numbers right there. So shout out the Houston Rockets, shout out Jalen Green. Let's go talk about the rest of the guards. Second guard to talk about here is Tyler Hero here. Now, I know, -10 over like these 3 games. The Heat have obviously been going through a lot right now with the whole Jimmy Butler thing, but in this last week, 29 points per game, 4.5 assists, almost 7 rebounds a game, shooting at 56% from the field and 40% from three, and he's chucking, I believe he was taking like almost 10, 11 threes a game and hitting from that clip. Now, Tyler Hero's been playing basically all-star level basketball this whole year. I say basically because he hasn't made an all-star team yet, obviously. I do intend for my video tomorrow, a little sneak peek, probably going to be picking my all-star teams and everything. I'm literally just going to go down like every single team and be like, this guy could be an all-star, this guy could be an all-star, and then we'll narrow down the list from like everybody that we take, and I think that'll be kind of a fun activity to kind of talk about all those guys. But Tyler Hero almost certainly is going to be in the conversation for being an all-star this season. I mean, let's just take a look at the numbers throughout the season, right? 24 points, 5 assists, almost 6 rebounds, shooting it well from 3 this year again, and the field goal percentage isn't bad by any means. I mean, he's a net neutral on the season too, plays a ton of minutes, played a ton of games, been super available, so I don't know, man. He's had a really, really nice season. The Heat expected a lot out of him coming into this year. The playmaking has improved. I'd still like it to be better at the end of the day. Like, can he set his teammates up in the right way? Can he read things correctly? He's definitely taken a step forward in the right direction. But can we make it to where this is like a reliable thing that he can do at all times? I don't necessarily know, but obviously Tyler Hero, really, really good basketball player. The Heat just keep on being the Heat, man. Jimmy Butler's obviously back now, and we're going to talk about that more later in the video. But hey, shout out Tyler Hero this week, man. Another guard, like I keep talking about, we're highlighting Jamal Murray this last week. And this last week for Jamal Murray, 28.5 points per game, 5 assists, almost 4 rebounds, getting about a steal and a half, too, which is nice to see. 55% from the field and 48% from three. This is across 4 different games. Jamal Murray's kind of had a nice upswing. Now, it wasn't the greatest start for him, and Jamal Murray's always kind of an interesting player to talk about in and of itself, because him and Jokic, when they're kind of doing the whole like two-man game and everything, they're pretty unstoppable, right? That was always seen as like the toughest thing to guard in the NBA. Russell Westbrook's had the ball a little bit more recently. He plays really well off the ball with Jokic as well, which has been kind of cool. So like he's taken the ball out of Murray's hands a little bit more, and that's been not as great for Murray, right? And, Westbrook kind of makes it hard to play off of him at times too. So, that's not the easiest thing in the world, but Jamal Murray has had a nice little upswing in things. 20 points per game on the season, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, shooting it well from 3 this year again. It's just kind of like, he makes a lot of money. He's won you a championship, so you can never complain about him that much, right? Because, like, dude just, he does it when it matters most. That's kind of his whole thing. But he's never, like, all-star level good, right? He's a fringe type of player, like a Brandon Ingram, a Zach LaVine type or something like that, right? But at the end of the day, he has won a championship, and he's been the second best player in a championship team. So it's like, well, that's kind of it at the end of the day. And look, like, I really like Jamal Murray. I think he's a really dynamic player. I think he's good on both ends of the court. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of him, and he's, like I said, the last couple weeks he's kind of had more of an upswing. So hopefully he can continue to carry this, because other guys on the Nuggets, like Michael Porter Jr., has just had a nuts season. Aaron Gordon continues to have a really, really good basketball season, right? Even guys like Christian Braun, like I've been very impressed with like how he's been this year. I mean, you guys saw the numbers on the screen there. It's a good group, man. Can they get a little bit of depth? Can guys like Strother continue to kind of build some consistency? We're seeing like a little bit of an upswing in his game a little bit. I expect a lot out of this kid. I think he's going to be a nice basketball player. So I guess we'll see. Final player I want to highlight this week, the last guard, is Scoot Henderson. That's got to feel pretty good to hear, actually. Shout out the boy Scoot. In this last week in 3 games, 25 points per game, 7.5 assists, almost 8 assists, just under 4 rebounds, a steal and a half, a block a game, shot at 58% from the field and 59% from 3. So when you watch the games, it's still kind of the same thing with the Portland Trailblazers, unfortunately. There's too many guys that are just kind of in his way. We're not really seeing a coaching scheme that's being put in that's like really conducive to like winning basketball games right now, and that continues to be a problem for them, right? I'd love to see them make some moves to really try to prioritize this kid. He's so talented, and look, we're just now hitting halfway point of his second season, right? Plenty of time for things to kind of turn around. I mean, we can look at Scoot Henderson's numbers for the year. It's not anything to write home about by any means. 12 points, which respectable, right? 5 assists, 2 rebounds. He's coming off the bench at this point, by the way. A steal a game, the field goal percentage and the 3-point field goal percentage, not that great. Only playing about 26 minutes only. So he's basically their 6th man, right? But so many other ball handlers on the team, like centers that get in his way and everything. I'd love to see the Trailblazers really prioritize like him, Klingon, I guess Sharp as well, right? Kamara, that seems like a good group. Denny is looking really, really good for them when he gets to be a ball handler, right? I would, if I'm Portland, I'm like, all right, Scoot's got the ball, Denny's got the ball the second most amount of the time, right? We're going to see if we can make Shaden and Kamara kind of work without the ball. You got Klingon there. That's an interesting little core of people, right? Like, let's see what we can do with that. I still think you probably need another high ceiling guy in that core somewhere, but at least that's something to explore, and those guys can kind of play off each other in logical ways. So I don't know. I just hope they can move some of the fluff off this team and kind of get them going in a better direction, because it's frustrating, right? Because we see the talent. It's just can he get a chance to actually go out there and do it? And man, he's showing it right now. So good for him. Good for Scoot. Let's go talk about other people around the association. Talking about our points leaders and everything, Shea is leading in points right now. By the way, 31 games to qualify is the number right now for our shooting numbers. It's taking at least 5 shots and 3 threes each game. You got Giannis here, Jokic, Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Maxey, who's not doing it maybe efficiently, but he's still up there, and Jalen Brunson. If we were to take this away and you can just see the actual like leaders, Luka Doncic and LaMelo Ball, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, Banchero, Banchero, obviously up there, but obviously not enough games played to actually put them on the list and feel comfortable about those numbers right now. You always got to weight those numbers at the end of the day, right? If we go over to our passers, it's still Trae Young. He has fallen from the 12 assists per game, which was pretty crazy, down to, oh no, only 11.8, right? So fallen a little bit. Jokic is almost up to 10. Cade Cunningham continues to dominate. And shout out the Pistons, by the way. They crossed the 500 threshold. That is incredible for a turnaround. I'm rooting for that team so hard right now. LeBron, obviously, still up there, just telling Father Time to politely, like, screw off, in all honesty, which is just awesome. I'm zooming in on the screen a little bit more so you guys can see a little better. Tyrese Halliburton continues to kind of have a weird season, all said and done. If we can, like, take a look at Halliburton, who the scoring, like obviously, like, that as a counting stat, 18 points a game, 9 assists, awesome, right? It's just like some games, man, it's like 2 for like 15, it feels like, and then other games just kind of like he does get hot or whatever, and then there's some games he just doesn't shoot at all. It just feels like he's so like game to game with what he's doing, and that doesn't feel like the role, because like Jason Tatum does that, but that feels more so like, okay, I've got all these other studs on the team, I just kind of have to do what I need to do each night. That's not really what Halliburton's role should be, so I don't know, kind of confusing to me. Rebounds, Sabonis up there at the top, big bodega cat, not far behind him. Jokic again is going to be there. Zubats, Giannis. I'm just going to presume that those names are going to be the ones that are there for the rest of the season. Those tend to be the leading rebounding guys. Dyson Daniels, who plays like 40 minutes a game for the Hawks at this point, just because he's so elite defensively. He's leading in steals. If we could just get this boy to shoot, oh my God, he'd make so much money. If he could just shoot, he'd make so much money. He's pretty good at the rim now. He's getting pretty creative with that type of stuff. It's just, and we'll wait. He's patient, right? If we could get him to shoot, we'd get there. Then we obviously got Shea and Jalen Williams, our Thunder boys, and there's a bunch of other Thunder guys that aren't far behind on this list. Jokic is in there for steals as well, and then Tyrese Maxey. Blocks per game, Victor Wembanyama is just unstoppable. I saw some sort of statistic that was talking about like when Chris Paul and Wemby, I think this was on the Discord, by the way, go join the Discord if you haven't already. Link is in the description. Our Discord is super, super active. If you want to talk basketball, just see news updates, things like that. Those boys take good care of it over there. So thank you to all you guys that are on there. But I think they posted a statistic like basically like Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama when they're on the floor are basically like unstoppable as an NBA team. And we all were just like, yeah, believe it or not, person passes the ball to Wemby, good things happen. That's basically what needed to be happening. And they talked about some of the defensive numbers behind those two on the court together. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure most of it is just because Wemby's on the court, so a little bit of a skewed statistic, but nonetheless, like really, really good. Walker Kessler, obviously having a great season defensively. Anthony Davis, as always. Miles Turner, Brooke Lopez, very, very cool. Our field goal percentage leaders, Walker Kessler is number 1 now. Jared Allen and coming in at number 2. Daniel Gafford falling off a little bit. Daniel Gafford did have like a 27-point game or something. Where was Daniel Gafford this last week? Because I think Lively was hurt or something. 14 points per game, 6 rebounds. 67%. He only made 2/3 of his lobs this week, right? Whatever. Derek Lively, obviously really good. Jalen Duren continues to get an uptick in work and everything. We'll talk about the Pistons at some point, probably in another video, but it really just looks like the attitude on that team is completely different at this point. The effort just kind of seems to be there, and that's why I was saying you have to win some games to win some games. The players buy in a little bit more. They're giving a little bit more effort. You're seeing Marcus Sasser pick up from half court. You're seeing Duren rush to the rim for certain things now that you just didn't see the year before, right? So it's super, super cool. And I think, what was it? It's like the combination of like Ron Holland, Asar Thompson, and like Jalen Duren, like their defensive numbers are like, it's like a 98 defensive rating or something, which for those of you that don't know, that is like completely insane. And the offensive numbers with that lineup isn't very good, as you can imagine, but it is fun to look at that number defensively though. So kind of a cool thing. And then we have our 3-point shooting leaders, Jokic at 47%, which is crazy. Taurean Prince continues to have a really good year. Zach LaVine, not far behind, he's just having a stupid efficiency season in general. It's nuts. Norman Powell is Mr. Efficiency in basketball at this point. If we could just pull up Norman Powell, 49% from the field. This is a 6'4" dude, by the way, and then 45% from 3 at 24 points per game. Norman Powell is going to have to be in all-star conversations when I do that video. I'm probably going to record it right after this, but nonetheless. And then Big Bodega Cat again appearing on this list. Shout out Cat. Can we just look at some Cat stats really quick? 25 points, 14 rebounds, a steal, almost a block, 3.5 assists, 55 from the field, and 45 from 3. good Lord, Cat is having a MVP caliber season. He's got to be the starter. Like, he has to be an all-star starter, right? I'll check the numbers. We'll check the numbers. We'll do the whole thing. We'll build out a little roster and everything. But anyway, those are kind of guys that are succeeding right now, our highlighted players and everything. Let's go talk about news. All right, first bit of news, we did have a trade in the NBA this week. This seemed like a trade that was always on the table. Nick Richards was traded from the Charlotte Hornets over to the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns also sent with Josh Okogie back to Charlotte. They sent 3 second-round picks. So Josh Okogie, 3 second-round picks, and the Hornets sent 1 second-round pick and Nick Richards over. And what does this move mean, right? We talked about it in another video. You guys can go watch that on the channel and everything. It was just a couple days ago. Nick Richards is the center they needed, right? He's a starter caliber center. He played in like 1 game this week for them, right? And he just like absolutely like dominated, which was awesome. So I guess these stats, I think there's 1 Charlotte Hornets game in this as well, but he had like 20 something points or something and like 10 rebounds or something. He was really, really good. He's just basically letting all the stud players go do what they do. And he's like, okay, I'll just be here to catch lobs when they double team you, which is perfect. He's going to block shots. He's going to get a ton of rebounds. It's exactly what he does. He's an elite role player, right? Obviously the Hornets taking back Okogie. They're going to use him defensively. That's awesome, right? We'll see how that helps them. Unfortunately, the Hornets sustained some other bad news not too long after this trade, but is what it is. It was a good trade for both sides. The Hornets got some assets that they needed for a player that they didn't need long term, and maybe a guy that can help continue to kind of build out a grittier culture like they're kind of trying to do, it seems like, which good for them. I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, the Suns make a move that will help them in the short run because they've needed just any center help that they can get, and that's very, very useful to them. But is it going to mean that much if they don't make the bigger trade that they're trying to make around like Jimmy Butler and stuff like that? Then, it's kind of whatever. But at the end of the day, I think it's a good move for either team. So good for them at the end of the day, right? Good for them. If we can move on to the next story I have here, I have the Clippers beat the Nets by 59 points. That's the worst loss in franchise history. So Brooklyn, you're doing it. You're doing it. We said the Nets were winning too many games. They're losing games now that Schroeder's gone and everything, and they're trying to move on from other players. We'll see if guys like Cam Johnson end up going right. Obviously, they brought in D'Angelo Russell, right, because they traded Dorian Finney-Smith. D'Angelo Russell doesn't start, which is kind of like, okay, like, come on now. They're starting the boy Keon Johnson here, who, look, like, I don't even have a picture for Keon Johnson. That's no shade, right? Like, Keon Johnson, like, fine NBA player, right? Numbers suggest maybe otherwise, but we all know he's not a great player at the end of the day. But they're not playing Russell. He's like the 8th man coming for them, and it's like, okay, D'Angelo Russell's like probably the 2nd best player on this team. Like, y'all can play him a little bit, but the Nets are trying to lose games right now. They're being very clear about that. They're like, no, we want to get Cooper Flagg or someone, right? Like, that's what they want, especially after Cooper Flagg is just dominating right now. Man, does he look good. Oh, this draft class, again, go watch the mock draft videos and everything that we're putting out. But man, some of these guys just look amazing. But D'Angelo Russell not playing nearly enough probably for Brooklyn. But at the same time, if you're a Nets fan, you're probably like, I don't care necessarily anyway. So I just wanted to highlight that. The Nets doing what they feel like they should be doing, right? So good for them. Next bit of news. By the way, we don't have a ton of news this week. This was a pretty chill week. But Jimmy Butler is back on the court. Surprisingly, actually. So all this drama kind of continues to go and everything. And by the way, if you're not on the Discord, this is a good reason to go join. I was kind of talking about, I have a little bit of inside stuff, that I was kind of sharing on the Discord and everything around this topic. Nothing that I'll put on YouTube or anything, but just some of the cool things that I get to kind of hear and stuff. At the end of the day, if you're not in the locker room, you just don't know, and that's how I should be seen as well. But, I get to hear a couple things here and there, which is kind of interesting. He's back on the court, though, and in all fairness, he played well when he was out there. But the most important thing about Jimmy Butler being back is that he did it in the Miami Vice uniform. So not only was Jimmy back, but the best uniforms in the NBA were back. I don't care what you say, Miami Vice uniforms are the best. Like, that's, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think, but they're super cool. I don't know. I think they're sick, and I think it's awesome when they wear them. It was a shame when they put them away, and I'm glad that they're back. But yeah, Jimmy Butler's here. We're going to see what happens. He still wants to be traded. It seems like the Heat are going to be stubborn about things. If they don't trade him, I think this is going to be really weird. But this is where we are, right? You've got an unstoppable force versus an immovable object in Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley. So I'm very curious to see. And look, it all just comes down to money at the end of the day. If you paid him, he'd probably just chill out, right? But they're not going to do that. And I understand like their perspective on it as well. Pat Riley will say, you got paid to do your last contract. You did a good job. That's what you're supposed to do. I can't disagree with that logic at all. Jimmy Butler also says, I'm still really good. You should pay me now because I continue to play well. And I get that as well. So it's probably just best that the two sides move on. I hope that they find a way to do it. We're making trades all the time on the Discord trying to figure out how to make this happen. I'd be shocked at this point with all the trades that we've tried to do if one of them didn't come into fruition. So I guess we'll see. Moving on. Brandon Miller. Sorry, Charlotte Hornets fans. It's been a year. It has been a year. This is not the season that the Hornets really wanted to have. Your second-year player, Brandon Miller, 21 points per game, about 5 rebounds. Efficiency kind of all over the place. It really felt like it depended on whether or not LaMelo Ball was playing as to whether or not he was going to be efficient. I know that's not like an actual correlation, but it kind of felt like it at times. He might be out for the year. He like tore something in his wrist. I don't know which wrist it was or whatever, but unfortunately Brandon Miller is going to be down for the foreseeable future. And that's just a shame. Like I said, you got guys like Trey Mann that have been hurt this year too, that are players you want to see if you can kind of build things around long term. Obviously Grant Williams went down this season. LaMelo's been down a decent amount. You were kind of hoping that this team with like the ownership change, the GM changes, and like the coach changes, and kind of getting rid of some bad apples on the team and stuff, that it's like, okay, well maybe there's enough talent to scrape in and be like a potential play-in team or something like that. And no, the Hornets don't look very good right now, and it just is what it is. And without Brandon Miller, no, they don't stand they didn't really stand a chance much before, but now they certainly don't. So that's unfortunate. We wanted to kind of see the growth continue with him because I think he's a very impressive player, and he's got a high ceiling and everything. So I don't know. It's unfortunate. Is what it is. But anyway, we move on. Let's go talk about the rookies. All right, y'all. Back over here to the rookie report tab. I did add a little something over here so that we can take a look at how the rookies performed in the last week. So everything that you see over here will be weekly stats for them. I don't know. I just felt like that could be a useful little thing here. For those of you that are new, basically we have all the rookies ranked here, the top 15 of them based on points per game. We did a small study, found that that's usually what indicates rookie of the year, at least most of the time. It's not all the time, but that's why we have them ranked the way that we do. Number one on the list right now is Alex Sarr, and by the way, this is with a 31 minimum games played total. If I change this to say like 27, look like Zach Edey jumps back on the list, right? Probably someone else that I didn't just notice. It looked like Filipowski or something like that, but anyway, we have the game minimum for a reason, right? You got to be playing a certain amount of the season. So Alex Sarr still at the top. Alex Sarr actually had a pretty solid week this week, like 12 points per game, almost 7 rebounds. He's getting blocks. Defense still looks good. He's hitting his three-pointer a lot more as of late. There's a lot of like weird little goofy shots the Wizards kind of set him up for just because they're a goofy-ass team and everything. So I wouldn't read into that too much. But again, he's looking very impressive. Like I look at him and I'm like, yeah, no, I feel very confident that this could be your starting center for the future with this team, especially on the defensive end. He looks awesome, and I think he's got a lot of different intangibles that are going to help him offensively over time. So very, very good. Jalen Wells sitting here tied with him for points per game. Jalen Wells had himself a week, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 13, 14 points per game as a second-round pick. The efficiency was off the charts this week. Defense continues to look good, and this is a part of a Grizzlies team that is just rolling offensively, and he's a big part of it, man. They really needed a wing coming into this season. They took one in the second round, and it's working out for him. He looks like a vet out there already, so a lot of credit to him. And honestly, the next guy we're going to talk about, Stephon Castle, might have had himself an even better scoring week at 23 points per game. Again, efficiency is going to be a big thing for him. Turnovers, stuff like that. And as much as he makes a lot of good defensive plays, he is out of position quite a bit of the time. And it's cool. He's young. All these guys are young. They're learning, right? It's totally fine. I don't see anything in him that I don't expect rookies to do, right? It's totally fair. Eventually, we'll hopefully get the shot figured out. He's going to learn all the other stuff. He seems like he's super, super smart. He's going to absorb the Spurs organization perfectly. It's going to be really, really good. So shout out to Stephon Castle, not far behind these three here. Risa Shea, I think he got hurt this week. Yeah, he got hurt this week. So ignore all the numbers and everything, but he still comes in at number 4. Hasn't been able to quite find his stride this week. Connect, I believe, also had pretty limited minutes this week. Yeah, he's down to like 15 minutes a game. Very inefficient this week. So We'll see, man. We'll see. I'd love to get him some more minutes out there, and I can't even make the argument at this point that he should start over Max Christie, because Christie's actually been pretty good for the Lakers, like especially on the defensive end, as the Lakers like defense continues to kind of ramp up for them, which is great, right? But I guess we'll see. And it feels so weird saying their defense is ramping up, because like defensively their numbers are like ramping up. It's just sometimes just the effort dies on that team, and it's so weird. It's so weird. Anyway, moving on to Bub Carrington. He had like a good game like a night or two ago or something like that. And again, he's trying to make the most out of a bad situation in Washington where the team just doesn't make a ton of sense, right? He's a rookie point guard that in most drafts goes late 20s anyway, right? And so the 9 points a game, like some rebounds, some assists, the efficiency's not that great, right? I don't know, man. I feel good about his ability long term to kind of be like a reserve guard or something like that, or a backup point guard, I should say, but I don't know. It's hard right now. It's hard. Yves Missy probably should be higher in like the rookie of the year rankings and everything, just because he's very much already a very solid role player. This last week just did what he did: 7 points, 6 rebounds, gets a block, efficient from the field. They've been kind of taking his minutes away a little bit. I feel like they're giving more to Tice, and obviously Zion playing some center minutes now that he's back. So that is what it is. Tristan da Silva here at 8. Starting to get a little bit concerned about old Da Silva here. Oh, I should probably type a first name here. Tristan Da Silva. The efficiency is just like, it's rough, man. I mean, you look at it for the year, like 30% from 3, 41 from the field. They have him, I feel like, in too many ball handling situations. And I know they don't have like a ton to go off of on this team, but I don't know. Can we just like get this dude some easier shots or something right now? Because it looks challenging. And look, he's a rookie. The efficiency is going to be whack. We don't care about efficiency in rookies too much right now, but the efficiency is pretty bad right now. So we really got to kind of start to pick it up. We haven't really had a long stretch of like consistency out of him yet. So let's try to get him some easier looks, right? This is where we look at the team and we say, come on, coaches, like let's put him in some spots of repetition and stuff where you can try to kind of build something out. So that's what we're looking for there. Keyshawn George actually had a solid week, if I remember correctly. For those of you that don't know, I read through box scores like every night, and I'm usually pretty good at remembering that stuff. Yeah, no, so like 47% from 3, that's awesome. 50% from the field over 4 games, 12 points per game. Cool. Still don't like his play style very much. I don't think it really does much for you long term, but glad he had a good week. Ryan Dunn, I know he had a good week, and it helps that they have like a reliant defensive center now that like, one, that gives a little bit of space, right? Because there's a lob threat, things like that on the team. So he's getting off cleaner looks in 4 games. He shot it really, really well this week, almost 14 points a game. That's awesome. He's guarding the best guy every night, looking awesome. We were pretty much right about Ryan Dunn coming into this season. Ron Holland, I'll keep saying it, defensively, amazing, right? Looks really, really good. And I shouldn't say like amazing because he does make like a lot of mistakes, but like dude brings the effort and he brings the energy, and that's awesome. Still doesn't have much of an idea for what he's doing out there, but look, defense is half energy. It really is. It's half effort and energy. He's big, he's strong, he's guarding people. That's awesome, right? That's exactly what he needs to do. Does he really necessarily fit with everything else that's going on in the Pistons? No, that's not his fault though. So, you know, is what it is. Can we get some efficiency up and everything by the end of the season? Maybe. I guess we'll see. AJ Mitchell, we won't be able to pull up his stats because he's hurt right now, but he falls in there. Donovan Clingan, oh, I bet you he's going to have some funny weekly stats right here. Oh, yes, he does. Oh, just one game, though. Okay, that's why. I only remembered the one game, so that's why I was curious. 4 points, 14 rebounds, 2 steals, a block, 100% from the field. Shout out Donovan Clingan, man. Can we just start the guy already? Like, I know it's not going to be, like, great, but, like, why not? Jamison Battle, I feel like this is kind of like a fun game for me to play at this point. I feel like he didn't have a good week this week. Ooh, yeah, there we go. Ooh, bad week for Jamison Battle. But then Jamal Sheed, I think, did, but pretty sure he was hitting his threes this week. Let's go. 56% from 3. I'll mess up eventually, but not today. So, shout out Jamal Sheed. He's just, look, the Raptors are just going to keep playing these second-round picks, as you can see, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to keep losing games by a lot, but Jamal Sheed, he might be a guy to keep around long-term. I'm digging him. Obviously, like, Battle, too, like, hitting the shots, that's awesome, so there we go. Taking a look at some of the other guys, like Reed Shepherd, still not playing a whole bunch for them right now. It's totally fine. Salon here for Charlotte. There's a reason his stats aren't coming up. I noticed this actually during my data scrape that I always do. They messed up his name in the data scrape. They no longer have, I don't know what it's called when you have the 2 dots over the U right here, but they messed up his name, so that's why it's not pulling right now. But still not seeing a ton from him at this very moment. Rob Dillingham, if we were to pull up his stats from this week, I know they're good. In 2 games, almost 11 points, shot it crazy from the field. Play the rookies, Minnesota. Both of them. Just do it. It makes me so mad. Just play him. You don't need to play Mike Conley this much at this point. Take Jaden McDaniels off the court a little bit more. For God's sake, take Rudy Gobert off the court a little bit more and put Naz Reid out there. Just all the rotational stuff going on with Minnesota. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Play Rob Dillingham. Yes, he's going to be bad defensively. I don't care. Everyone else on the team can play good defense. It's fine. You need to get some buckets. You need to up the pace a little bit, get some easier shots. Just play him. It's not that complicated. Obviously, moving on to Zach Edey, like his numbers are going to be fine and everything. He didn't get very many minutes this week. Look, they've got a lot of other bigs on the team. He plays a very specific role. Good for him, right? So this week, 15-ish minutes per game, 4 points, 5 rebounds. But Zach Edey overall having a very nice season. Cody Williams, yeah, sorry, Cody Williams. We hope it'll get better for you. We really do. We hope it'll get better. Buzelis, he puts up at least like a highlight every night. He always gets like one big dunk, and that's my excitement as a Bulls fan for this season. Devin Carter, how did Devin Carter play this week? Why don't I remember like seeing anything for him? Oh, that's why. Only about 11 minutes, not looking great right now. It's going to take him a little bit, right? Give him a little bit of time. He's still coming back from injury, getting into game shape. Not tripping about it at all right now. Ooh, we should talk about Khalil Ware. This will be the last one we talk about. So Ware, he's starting to get some PT. It's the typical Heat fashion, right? We knew it was weird that he wasn't getting playing time. They've been developing him. Udonis Haslam's been working with him in the gym every single day. As of late, numbers are going up, right? So I wonder how many games played. Like if I set this to 0, okay, Khalil Ware does jump into the top 15 then. So there you go. But for the time being, he's getting some PT now. In the last week, 12 points per game, 10 rebounds, shooting it crazy all over the place. He still messes up defensively quite a bit, but he makes some pretty big blocks, which is pretty cool. So shout out Khalil Ware, man. Very, very awesome. All right, let's go talk about standings. Alrighty, so the Cleveland Cavaliers, obviously the win streak was snapped again. They played the other top team in the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they got their brains beaten. Oh my goodness, the Thunder might be unstoppable. But overall, the Cavs looking very good. They're in the trade rumors quite a bit, but they're also saying like, hey, we might not make some moves just because the chemistry is looking so good right now. We look so good. I mean, they're 35-6. It's nuts. I don't blame you for not wanting to touch it, man. I don't blame you. The Boston Celtics. Is it weird that I'm like not concerned? They've had some really dumb losses as of like that Hawks game. If you guys watched that Hawks game in OT, I haven't seen such basketball mismanagement in a long time. Just go watch it. It's just absolutely insane. Like the breakdown of that team and everything. But I'm just kind of like these guys will turn it on come playoff time. They feel like the Kansas City Chiefs, if y'all watch football, like they're kind of just going to figure it out or whatever. So I'm feeling fine about that. The New York Knicks, just get these boys some depth and it'll be good. The Bucks are up to the 4 seed now. Like from what a bad start they had, man, have they corrected it, right? So they continue to go well. Damian Lillard and Giannis have just been absolutely dominant. Torian Prince has been consistent all year. Brooke Lopez is having a really good season. If they could get anything out of Middleton right now, and I know we're kind of at the point where we're thinking we should trade Middleton, and I don't blame you for that thought necessarily. It would suck to trade the other championship guy from this team, a guy that you grew. He's a great vet and everything, but like maybe you move on from him because like a lot of other things are working on the team right now, and that's such a large amount of money that's not doing much for you. And look, he's just been injured so much and he's pretty old. I don't know if he bounces back at this point, so I guess we'll see. The Indiana Pacers, I don't know what to do with them. There's just, I feel like a lot of inconsistency on this roster, but they're still the 5 seed. So there you go. At least it feels like they're playing fast again. So back to what they do well. The Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young's been hitting as of late. What was Trae Young this last week? Can I pull up Trae Young's stats from this last week? Okay, yeah, it was a lot better. God damn. Maybe we should have highlighted. Oh, yeah, he was number 1 in points per game this last week. 36 points per game, 8 assists, 2.5 steals, 41% from 3. It's pretty nuts. That's pretty nuts. The Magic continuing to kind of slide a little bit. They keep sliding. I think teams are starting to figure it out a little bit, and this is kind of the point where, like, I always say hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. The talent's starting to work a little bit harder against the Magic now, and it's starting to fall just a little bit. But look, it's long season, still half the season ahead. You get Franz back at some point. Paolo gets himself back into game shape. Suggs has been kind of in and out. We'll have to see when they have their full roster back. It's like Goga's like out right now, I think, as well. Obviously, Wagner's out. It's just, good Lord, somebody help this team. But they're gritty, man. They're gritty. And speaking of gritty, we got the Pistons. They're 500. They had won, what, like 4 games or like 5 games at this point last year. Now they're 500. This is awesome. And look what happens. You put NBA guys on the team, good things happen. Now all of a sudden people are like, wow, Cade Cunningham's really fucking good at basketball. It's like, yeah, you dum-dums. Like, look between the lines a little bit, right? Like, and realize, I saw some stat that, like, in the last, like, 2.5 seasons, Cade Cunningham has played with, like, 45 different NBA players. Like, and he's been on one team, right? And, like, it's like half of them aren't even in the NBA anymore. It's just, they've had some ridiculous teams put around that guy. So, glad to see them succeeding. I hope they keep pushing. Be buyers at the deadline. I hope so. Miami Heat. We're going to see, man. They're losing right now. They're trying to hold on. We'll see what they do with Jimmy Butler and everything. My Chicago Bulls are going to be the 10 seed for forever, and I hate it. I hate it so much. I want it to stop. Please end my suffering. Somebody take Zach LaVine and Vucevic. They're really good this year. I'm not even just saying that. They're both so good. Just please take them. Please let me go into a rebuild. I can't take it anymore. The Sixers. I don't know. I don't like talking about this team, so I'm going to move on. The Brooklyn Nets starting to lose more games, 2-8 in their last couple. They're trying to catch back up. They got a long way to go to catch the Hornets, Raptors, and Wizards, but they are doing their damnedest, as we talked about, to lose by 60 points in a night. So good for them. We talked about the Hornets. Only going to get worse for them. Only going to get worse as they continue to lose bodies. The Toronto Raptors. Interesting how many games they lose. Like, their bench is bad. Like, it's really bad, but, like, damn, like, y'all still got some good players on the team. But yeah, this team doesn't have much of an identity or anything right now. But man, they have the makings of something that could be really good after this draft. So we'll see. The Washington Wizards are a joke. Sorry, Washington. I'm rooting for you. I really am. I want you to be better, but it's not good. The Thunder are absolutely unstoppable. As of right now, statistically, they're the best team in, like, NBA history, because I think their average, like, point differential is up to 13, which is the highest we've, like, ever had, like, halfway through an NBA season. Like, the Jordan Bulls were like at 12.5 or something like that, and they're up to 13. So they are beating the shit out of everybody, including the Cleveland Cavaliers on the other end. The Houston Rockets continue to win basketball games. The defense and intensity of all the young guys, super cool. The Grizzlies just score more points than everybody because they have 13 good NBA players on the team, and they can just put whoever in and let them get buckets. So good for those guys. We'll see if they buy anything. Denver Nuggets, still right there. Still going to remain dangerous as that starting 5 is so good. The Clippers. Am I wrong about the Clippers? Are they not going to fall off, or are we just going to be like a pretty solid team this season? So, I don't know. We'll see what the Clippers are doing. The Lakers, they're just going to keep floating around. This is 6th seed is probably like best case scenario for this roster, right? As it currently stands, a team with like no fucking point guards on the team, like nobody that can handle the rock. So, like, that's not completely true. Like, Reeves and LeBron can do it just fine, but we'd like a little bit better. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of moves they make. Dallas trying to hold on with all the injuries that they have to their top 2 guys. The Timberwolves are infuriating to watch at this point. Gobert plays too many minutes. You guys just heard me talk about it. McDaniels plays too many minutes at this point for guys that just can't contribute on the offensive end whatsoever. Gene McDaniels tried to have this weird dunk this last week. He tried to take off from, like, out of nowhere and just, like, completely missed it. It was so weird. Overall, interesting player, though. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad player. It's just probably could balance out the minutes a little bit more. The Sacramento Kings, 8-2 in their last 10. We're going to see if they can keep riding this. Is this team going to start to figure it out? I don't know. There's a lot of trade rumors around them as well that they're trying to get either John Collins or Cam Johnson, both having nice seasons. We'll see. The Warriors. Oh, man. Dennis Schroeder had a good game this last week. Did he not? Like, what are Schroeder's stats? Yeah, okay. Schroeder had a better week this week. 15 points per game. And not nearly as many assists, right? Because the system's weird for him. And like 46% from 3. I'm not going to lie. Pretty annoyed with the Warriors at this point. Like, look, you'll never be able to touch Steve Kerr and his legacy, and you shouldn't, right? I'm just saying, like, because I think it's fair to point out any flaws in anybody to an extent, right? But they just don't know how to conform to like the players that they have. That's just kind of what I'm settling on right now. I'm like, can we just put Schroeder in some actions that he knows what to do with? Because like all these like floppy sets and everything you're making him navigate just is not conducive to his play style, and it's not conducive to a couple other guys on the team. So maybe just change it up a little bit. I think Curry could adapt. I think he could. The Phoenix Suns, we'll see. They have a center now. We'll see if they have a Jimmy Butler soon, but otherwise it's been a season. Victor Wembanyama hasn't been doing quite as much recently, has he, for the Spurs? So let me confirm that. Yeah, not as much, but 18 points, 10 rebounds. The efficiency hasn't been that great. He's had a couple pretty low scoring output games recently, so is what it is. Like I said, if the Spurs got another high draft pick this year, it's not like it'd be a bad thing. This team's not going anywhere this year anyway. Portland Trailblazers, like I said, frustrating. What are you going to do? We hope that they make some moves. We really hope that they make some moves because they're sitting on a lot of players that people want. Pelicans, Zion's been back. Things have been going good. Surprise, surprise. Do you really want them to go good at this point? Herb Jones is out now? I don't know. And then the Jazz, who just seem to be kind of patiently waiting to put things back together. I've been kind of thinking, like, because are they going to make a move? Do they really need to make a move? They don't really have like a player they're developing or anything right now in particular, right? Like the Trailblazers, like you would think like Kling, Scoot Henderson, right? Like Denny, those are the guys you're putting a lot of effort into. The Jazz don't really have that obvious piece to do that with. And a lot of people are like, why haven't they traded the Sexton yet and the John Collins? And I tend to agree with that. I think they maybe should. I bet you there's also some logic though in them that says, okay, let's say we're the worst team in the West, right? Let's say we end up with like the 3rd overall pick or somehow like the 4th overall pick, right? And they're like, well, dang, we don't want to miss out on these guys. You can package the 4th pick with like a John Collins or something like that in a Collins Sexton and maybe move up in the draft. And I know it's going to be hard. Teams aren't going to want to trade away Cooper Flagg necessarily, but if you have enough assets, you can maybe go get something you want and maybe go get a 2nd first-round pick or something once you know who has it. So that could be part of the logic as well. So something to think about there. But anyway, that was our weekly recap. Let's go do our comment of the video. All right, so this comment of the video comes from our latest mock draft video here. We want to shout out Callum here. Asked a really, really good question. He said, are there distinctions between what makes a prospect better now versus having more potential? If so, what makes prospects seem like they'll have longer-term success? And I wish I had a better answer for you, Callum. I tried to kind of explain it a little bit here, but it goes back to like every league kind of prioritizes different skills. Like if you go down to the G League, right, and you're a guard that can get up and down the court, you're probably going to fare a lot better in that play style. Bigs and post-up bigs are still extremely dominant because of the way college basketball rules and play styles are set up, right? So it can be hard to look at players in certain places and say, okay, how does it translate here? So you kind of have to pick that player up and be like, okay, if you put him in an NBA scheme with NBA players that you know are going to play to this play style, how is it going to look, right? Because we talk about Dylan Harper in this video about how I think he kind of just works no matter where he goes. Whereas like Ace Bailey, who's still playing really, really well, by the way, I'm like, okay, I could see when he doesn't have to kind of like create something out of nothing in these situations and end up in these kind of like hot potato moments that he ends up with a lot of times in Rutgers. I'm like, okay, like then I can see these skills that he has with the ball handling and the pull-up ability to be really valuable. And we're already seeing some of the things like him being like a good off-ball mover. Like, okay, that translates well to the NBA because there's so many guys that understand like when to make the next pass and things like that. That's going to help him a ton, right? So really, really good question, Callum. Thank you very much. As you guys know, I respond to every single comment and I've got more to respond to over here. So we'll get there. But hey, I appreciate you guys as always. That was this last week in the NBA. And hey, stay tuned for the rest of the videos this week, y'all. I'm going to try to do a bunch of videos around like, hey, halfway through the season, let's rank some things, let's rate some things. Those are always fun. So anyway, appreciate you guys as always, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks so much. Bye.